After college, I moved to the south, Northeast Washington to be exact, for work. The Blue Mountains were practically in my backyard, and as an avid hunter, I couldn't wait to explore them before the next season rolled around. I've always had a knack for scouting game. Growing up on a farm and ranch in Montana, I spent most of my life outdoors, tending livestock, tracking animals, and learning the rhythm of the land. I started calling animals when I was just a kid, tricking coyotes with dying jackrabbit sounds before I turned 10. Over the years, I learned how to mimic everything from rodents to bull elk. I'm not saying this to brag, it's just to lay the groundwork. I know my animal calls. I know their cadence, their rhythm, and I can tell the difference between a bird and a mammal by the texture of their sound. But what I heard that night wasn't either one. It was late afternoon when I set out into the blues. I got a later start than usual, but I wasn't too concerned. Most animal activity peaks around dusk and dawn, and I only needed a few miles between me and the nearest road. I hiked up a ridge and found a small, flat spot with a clear view of the surrounding hills. Perfect for glassing game. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, I'd only seen a couple of whitetails. I decided to make it a dry camp. No fire, just me in a bivy sack under the stars with plans for an early start. I was dead tired, but I couldn't shake the unease. The mountains felt different at night, too still. Then around 1 a.m., I woke up in agony. A sharp, pulsing headache tore through my skull in waves, searing pain, a moment of calm, then another crushing surge. I'm always meticulous about hydration on hikes, so I knew it wasn't that. I laid still, eyes clenched shut, trying to ride it out, when I heard it. A faint sound echoed down from the mountainside above me. Low, hollow, resonant. I froze, my headache momentarily forgotten. It wasn't an animal call, but whatever it was big. I could tell by the depth of the sound. Definitely a large mammal. But the cadence, it was wrong. Too loud, too repetitive, too deliberate. I tried to convince myself it was just some Washington bird I hadn't come across growing up in Montana. But even as I fed myself that lie, my gut knew better. The longer I listened, the more wrong it felt. The sound wasn't moving. It was staying in one place, repeating itself like some strange chant, echoing across the mountainside. And it was close. By 2 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. The pain in my head was unbearable and the sound was driving me insane. I made a judgment call, pack up camp and get the hell out. The trail I'd taken in was rough and steep, but I remembered a gated road a bit higher up. It looped back to the main road and my truck. It was longer, but easier to navigate in the dark. Only problem, it would take me directly toward the sound. I had no other option. As I followed the road, the call followed me. It tracked me, shadowed me, always just a few hundred yards above, pacing me through the darkness. No matter how fast I moved, it kept pace. Every snapped twig, every rustle of leaves sent jolts of adrenaline through me. The call never stopped, never changed, just stayed there, relentless and unseen. And that's what terrified me the most. Not that it was there, but that it refused to show itself. Whatever it was keeping out of sight on purpose. My headache worsened with every step, and my breathing grew erratic. I was dizzy, unsteady, maybe altitude sickness, I told myself, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. Really wrong. Then, as I descended below the tree line, something changed. The sound faded. My headache stopped. Instantly, like a grip had been released. But the feeling of being watched? That never left. I made it to my truck just before dawn. Shaken, drained, barely able to process what had happened. But my mind wouldn't let it go. When I got home, I spent hours online trying to find any sound that matched what I'd heard. Bird calls, animal vocalizations, anything. Nothing came close. Then, almost by accident, I typed in Bigfoot call. And there it was. The exact same sound. As I listened to the recording, a chill ran through me. That same dread came flooding back, the feeling I had that night in the Blue Mountains. But here's the thing. I don't believe in Bigfoot. Never have. And yet, I know what I heard. I've never heard it again. Not even when I returned to that same area. I went back once, walked straight through that tangled slope where the sound had come from. Nothing. No tracks, no movement, just silence. Or maybe it was watching. Since that night, I've never hunted that deep in the mountains alone, because whatever was up there, whatever was calling, it wasn't an animal, and it sure as hell wasn't human, but it was real, and it followed me, and I don't think it wanted me to leave. What I'm about to tell you still leaves me questioning what's real and what's not. This happened to my dad and me, and even now, 2 years later, I still get chills thinking about it. I know how it sounds. If I were you, I probably wouldn't believe it either. But I swear, every word is true. 2 years ago, my dad and I went on a camping trip deep in the countryside. We used to love doing that, getting away from the real world. This spot had everything: hiking trails, zip lines, and a peaceful lake. It was a bit touristy, but it sat on Native American land, which gave it a certain reverence. The first night was perfect. Families at other campsites had their fires going, kids were laughing, and the woods were alive with that warm summer energy. We cooked hot dogs, roasted marshmallows, and talked with some nearby campers. Everything felt normal. The second night changed everything. That morning, a staff member told us we were the only ones left in the park. Nobody else had booked a site. At first, we were excited. An entire campground to ourselves sounded like paradise. We spent the day hiking, fishing, and relaxing by the river. At one point, we listened to a scary podcast, leaning into the mood just for fun. By the time the sun started setting, we were feeling good, tired, and buzzed from the beers. We decided to swing by the park's info center to charge our phones and grab snacks. That's when things started to feel wrong. The forest had changed. The air was heavier, and the sky took on this strange, dreamlike color. My dad turned to me and said, "Doesn't this feel off? Like we're in a dream?" He was right. It felt like the woods had expanded somehow, like we were walking through something other. Neither of us spoke much after that. We kept glancing over our shoulders, expecting something, or someone, to be behind us. Back at camp, we stayed close to the fire. We didn't talk about how we felt. We didn't have to. It was like we both silently agreed to pretend everything was fine. We played music, roasted marshmallows, even smoked a little weed to take the edge off. Then, just after nightfall, we heard it. A loud bang, like a tree falling. It was close, maybe 100 yards away. We jumped, grabbed our flashlights, and pointed them toward the sound. Nothing. No movement, no glowing eyes, just silence. We tried to laugh it off. Bigfoot, we joked, but neither of us was really laughing. Minutes later, another bang, same kind of sound, this time farther away, then again, closer, then a fourth time, so loud and close it shook the ground, maybe 20 yards away. That's when real fear hit. It felt like something was circling us, something heavy. We threw the last of the wood onto the fire, grabbed what we could, and dove into the tent. We left everything else outside. I dropped flat onto the tent floor. My dad came in just a second behind me, but then froze at the entrance. Another bang, even closer. He didn't move. "Dad?" I whispered. He finally crawled in, pale and shaken. "It's standing there," he said. "What's standing there?" I asked. "I don't know," he whispered. "It's like a wall of darkness." He sat by the zipper, holding our only weapon, a tiny pocket knife. Useless, but it made us feel a little less helpless. Then we heard a low, humming sound. Not just a sound, a vibration. It pushed against our chests, buzzed in our teeth. It was like it was inside us. "You hear that?" my dad asked. I nodded, too scared to speak. The hum lasted maybe 5 minutes. Then it stopped and was replaced by a sound I'll never forget. A guttural, alien-like growl. Not animal, not human. The only way I can describe it is like the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. We froze. I had a mesh window beside me but didn't dare look. I didn't want to see whatever was out there. Then, nothing. We blacked out. No memory of falling asleep. Just darkness. When we woke up, we were both lying in the center of the tent. My dad still had the knife in his hand. I sat up in a panic, heart pounding like something had just left the tent. Our phones were dead. Both had been fully charged the night before. We stepped outside, standing back to back, too scared to be alone. Everything felt off. The air was cold. Still. The fire we'd stoked burned to ash. The food we'd left? Untouched. It was like time had skipped or been reset. We sat in silence until sunrise, not speaking until we were driving home. When we finally talked about it, we realized we'd felt the same thing. Watched. Hunted. Like something had been waiting. We told my mom. She thought we were high or had inhaled something weird. But I know what we felt, what we heard. Whatever it was out there, it wasn't human. It wasn't natural. We've never gone back. And I don't think we ever will. This happened to my girlfriend and me back in the summer of 2014, when we were dating. It all went down in South Carolina during a camping trip we planned together. We originally had our sights set on a campsite about 45 miles from our hometown. But when we got there, they wanted to charge us nearly double what we expected. Not wanting to blow our budget, we decided to turn around and head back. That's when I remembered a spot not too far from where we lived. It was a more off-grid location. Not an official campsite, but a beautiful place where you didn't have to pay anything. You could just park, get out, and pitch your tent. The area had a kind of rustic charm to it, with a historic bridge, a trail, and some of the oldest railroad tracks in the South. It was secluded, peaceful, at least during the day. We got there before sunset and had plenty of time to set everything up. There were a few other cars around when we arrived, most likely hikers who'd be gone by nightfall. But one vehicle stood out and immediately gave us a bad feeling. An old, rusted, white van with no license plate. We both pointed it out, uneasy, but shrugged it off. Maybe someone just liked to travel under the radar. We found a nice flat spot to set up our tent and spent the evening enjoying nature, just the two of us. Everything felt peaceful, until it didn't. Around 3 a.m, we were jolted awake by a strange sound. It was singing, soft, eerie, and distant. We also heard footsteps, crunching slowly through the woods. The kind of thing that makes your skin crawl because you know that nothing good ever comes from hearing someone singing alone in the woods in the middle of the night. I slowly unzipped the tent just enough to peek out. I didn't see anyone, but something felt wrong. Off. The air was heavy. We decided we weren't going to stick around to see how it played out. We started quietly gathering our things, but the singing got louder. I'll never forget one line of the song, "Now, won't y'all come out?" followed by a raspy, broken laugh that sent chills down both our spines. As we packed faster, we started hearing heavy footsteps on the leaves, and then humming, low and steady. We realized whoever was out there wasn't just wandering around, they were getting closer, slowly, intentionally. I grabbed my girlfriend's hand, slung the tent and folding chairs over my back, and we ran in the opposite direction of the noise. Fortunately, we hadn't set up too far from the parking lot, and I could see lights flickering through the trees ahead of us. But as we neared the clearing, we realized it wasn't just the streetlights we were seeing. It was the headlights of that same busted-up white van from earlier, now turned on and facing directly toward the trail. We sprinted uphill, just hoping whoever this was didn't have backup. His van was parked right in front of my car. If he had a partner, we could be trapped. As we burst into the lot, we stepped under the bright parking lights, finally close to the car. But the footsteps behind us were getting louder, faster. I could hear the crunch of gravel under heavy boots. And then a sickening voice yelled, "Don't y'all think you'll get away?" That was it. We split up, I handed my girlfriend the keys and told her to unlock and start the car while I tossed all our gear into the back seat. I could hear the man getting closer, grunting, snarling, swinging something through the air. With the engine running, I jumped into the driver's seat, heart pounding, but curiosity got the better of me. I paused for a second to see him emerge from the trail in the glow of our headlights. That's when I saw him. He was massive, towering. His face was wrinkled and stern with greasy, patchy red hair and a matted goatee smeared with dirt. His eyes locked on us like a predator zeroing in on its prey. In his hand, he was waving a baseball bat, pacing toward us. "Get back here," he barked, his voice like gravel. I shook my head and hit reverse, tires spinning as I peeled out of there. In the rearview mirror, we saw him raise the bat and slam it into the ground in frustration. I didn't look back again. We didn't stop until we reached a Waffle House a few towns over. We stayed there until sunrise, too rattled to speak. To this day, I'm just grateful we listened to our instincts and packed up the second we heard that singing. We didn't wait, we didn't ignore it, and I never want to find out what would have happened if we had.